Hey guys, this is Ed from Mission Ed Possible. Welcome back to my Atari 8-bit programming series. Last time we talked about display lists, and this time we're going to be talking about character sets. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's take a look at what we had last time. So we have Hello Atari in Antic Mode 5. It looks funky, but you can kind of read it. So let's look at how we can modify the character set and use colors. So the first thing we need to do here, let's expand here. Go ahead and update the comment since I keep forgetting to do that. So let's do character sets. Okay. So the idea behind this is that we're going to be telling the computer where our character set is located. Most of the time you're going to see online any tutorials for dealing with this is the first thing they do is they're going to copy the entire character set into a special buffer in memory and then modify it. And that's always been weird to me. I don't quite understand why they immediately think you want to copy data. We're not wanting to use characters at all. We're wanting to use symbols for all of our stuff. So the idea here is that we're going to have a character set in our memory location, and we can always switch back to the original one if we want to at any given time. So there's no real need to copy what's already in memory. In order to do that, we have two things we have to do. One, we have to tell the computer where our character set is located. Then we need to set up our character set, and then we need to display it on the screen. So that's what we're going to do in this video. So first off, what I want to do here is do a couple of things we can do to clean up. For one, this load display list thing that we have this time. This is a very, very common construct in assembly language. So much so that the MADS assembler has a macro built in for doing this. You know, we're moving the high byte and the low byte for the display list into the STL location. So there's actually a command called move word. So it's MWA, and then we say dlist, and we say STL, and that replaces this whole section right here. So in the future, I'm going to be actually using that construct. I'm going to be using macros where I can, just because it just makes the code so much cleaner. A lot less typing, just everything is there. Might as well use the macros since they're available. Let's see, what else? Also, one of the things that we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and remove this data area here because we're not going to be doing Hello Atari anymore. And for testing purposes, what I want to do here is I want to show the Antic mode 2, which is the standard text mode. So I'm going to do that for one line. And if you remember last video, we did all different combinations of these different things. So I'm going to change that to use Antic mode 2. And so let's just make sure that this works. Since I removed the hello world, nothing's going to display, but we can make sure that it compiles. Undeclared label, hello, we don't need that anymore either. So let's go ahead and remove that. And let's just go ahead and make sure our display list works. So yeah, so we have our character mode as well as Antic mode 5. We don't have anything displaying yet, but that's okay. We'll get there. Okay, other things we can remove in here are going to be the other Antic modes. We're not going to need these for this project, so I'm just going to clean this up as well. For now, I'm going to keep Antic mode 2 and Antic mode 5. And so this all looks about right. We need, I think, everything in here now. I don't think we need the SAV MSC, so we can actually remove this as well. And so this is, you know, pretty lean here. It doesn't do anything, but that's okay. We're just kind of cleaning things up in between, you know, projects. So what I'll be doing a lot of times here is adding things for demonstration purposes, and then I'll be removing them probably in the next video. So get used to me removing code and stuff. By the way, you can always see the code for each episode on the GitHub repository. The link is down in the description. I have branches created for each of the lessons. So for video 1, I think it's called video 1, and then there's video 1, video 2 that's currently out right now, and this will be video 3, etc. So if you want to see where we currently are, that's going to be the main branch, and then the previous branches will be for each of the videos. Okay, so the first thing we need to do here after we've cleaned up, we want to allocate a certain amount of memory for our character set. In order to do this, we're going to need to do two things. One, we're going to need to set up memory for our character set. And the space that a character set takes up is 4 pages, which each page is 256 bytes long. 4 pages is 1K. What we need to do is put that somewhere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 4 pages from our screen memory here. So we can just put our character set right underneath our screen memory. So we're not taking up any extra space. So I'm going to put char set at $3C, let's use lowercase, 3C00. And I'm going to say character set. And the reason why it's 3C is because in hex you have, 3C would be 1 page, 3D, 3E, and then 3F. And then right after that would be the 4000. The next thing we need to do is we need to tell the Antic where our character set is located. And the way to do that is we have a certain memory location called chbas. And that's going to be at 02F4, I believe. Yes, 02F4, which is going to be the character base register. Okay, so I'm going to just do base register. chbas is where we're going to want to put our character set location so that it knows where our character set is located. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set it up so that we have this 3C going into 02F4. The way we did it before is we copied a whole word for our display list. Now, the way that they did this for chbas, this is only the size of 1 byte instead of a word. So the interesting thing with that is because you have to have it on that even boundary, basically this 00 is kind of unneeded. What I'm putting it here just for logic's sake, so we know that it's at 3C00 and then our screen's at 4000. I'm putting it, in here at 3C00 just so we know where it's at, but we actually only need 3C. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to say MVA, which is move a byte from character set to chbas. Now, the interesting thing is because we're moving just a byte of this character set, and we're actually moving just the high byte of the character set, we're going to need to use that. Okay, so this means that use these 2 digits of the character set, and we're just ignoring these. Okay, it doesn't care. In fact, what we could have done is something like MVA, and we could move the number 3C into chbas. These would be equivalent. Okay, but we don't want to do that. We just want to make it look like that, so we know that we're at 3C00. That's where our character set is located. So I'm going to do a comment here, set up character set. Now we could do this, and there's nothing currently at this location yet, and we're going to be doing that next. Let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. It's not going to do anything different, but just to make sure that we're still good to go. Okay, what we're going to want to do here is start setting up our character set. So we're going to do it just similarly the way we did it before, and we're going to say I'm going to create a some data in here with the byte syntax, and I'm going to enter it in as binary data so that you can understand how the characters are made. Let me first put in a blank character so we can see what we have to work with. So the space character would look like this. One more. So we have 8 lines of 8 bits here. So this is actually, this is 1 byte. So these are 8 bytes for each character. It's easier to visualize it when it's in binary form though. So this would be just nothing. Okay. And actually what we can do is, for right now, we can actually copy this in before we even go anywhere, just so that we can make sure this works. So we're going to load in our character into the byte array. So first thing, what we're going to do here is we're going to do a move of our character set. Let's say chars actually, into our character set thing here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that. Now, the deal is this would just move 1 byte. And that's okay. For right now, we can just do it this way. We'll get into where we're going to want to do a loop for this. But for right now, this will work. By default, the character that is on the screen are blanks. They're spaces, okay? And we can prove that by running this and then changing the character set for the space character and then rerunning it. So I'm going to run this now, and it shouldn't change. But what I want to do is I want to set up 1 bit, just the upper right bit there, okay? And show you what happens. Okay. Notice that we have a dot now, a whole bunch of dots, right? So on the Antic mode 2, we have a dot in the upper right hand corner here, and we have a much bigger dot in Antic mode 5. So this is why I wanted to do multiple modes, so you can kind of see how this is laid out. So that 1 right there is what created that dot. So what we can do here is we can make, let's say we wanted to make like a diagonal line or something. So we can do something like this. And you can basically draw with 1s and 0s if you'd like to be able to make this slash. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Well, the reason why it didn't work is we're only copying the first byte, and we need to actually copy 8 bytes. So to do that, we're going to need a loop. Okay, so the way we're going to do that is first we're going to use the X register. Okay, and we're going to set up X register to be 0 to start. And we're going to create a looping label. So we're going to say use the X variable as an offset. So at the beginning, it's going to be 0. And then as it goes up, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. So it's going to go through here and go through each one of these bytes. And so what we're going to need to do here is we're going to need to say increment X. And then we're going to compare it with 8. And when it has the 8th one, then we want it to stop. Okay. So we're going to say branch not equal loop whenever this is not equal to 8. So this is how we're going to loop through. All right. So let's take a look at this, what this does. And now we have our really big slash. And so this actually kind of looks cool. In Antic mode 5, we also have slashes. And the way it's laid out is kind of a neat little pattern. So now we've got this full slash here. Now what we can do is we can make an interesting looking X if we want to. And you can sit here and play with this all day long. And I encourage you to. I encourage you to go through here and make designs with it. It's fun. We're going to be doing a lot of that in this project. Keep in mind, all of our walls and floors and all that is going to be made up of these characters. Now we have like an X pattern. Now it looks kind of weird in the Antic mode 5, and I'll get into why that is the case in a moment. But notice in Antic mode 2, we've got this really big kind of X. You can see this, one huge character here, but it's kind of a neat pattern that it forms. It kind of does this almost does this cross-hatching pattern. And so you can play around with this and really kind of, make an interesting looking thing. So I'm gonna just play around with this and see what that looks like. I don't know. The more things I add here, the less interesting I think it'll look, but why not? Now, one of the things you'll notice here is we have an additional color. That's something I'm going to explain why in a moment here, but so you can just play around with that. So that's how we can set up our character set. And we're only going to worry about one character for the moment. And that makes things just a lot simpler. Okay. We'll get into multiple characters after a bit, but for right now, we can mess with this and we can set up our own characters. We can set up walls. We could set up a little guy, whatever we want in here. And the good thing about this is a really great way to build a scene using characters. And because you can use, like, if you're dealing with stuff like a tile-based game, characters work well because you can easily lay out an entire scene and just use one byte for each one of the locations on the screen. So it's very efficient and it's very fast to display. So that's what we're going to take advantage of for this game. So let's move on to the next section, which is going to be how we're going to be able to use Antic Mode 5 for this. So the reason I had mentioned, the reason why we're using Antic Mode 5 is so that we get more colors. And the idea here is that we can get up to 4/5 colors, and I'll explain the 5th color in a minute, but you can get up to 4 colors for each character for both Antic Mode 4 and Antic Mode 5. And we noticed that it was interesting that it had that blue color, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how that works. When we're dealing with 2 colors in Antic Mode 2, all we need is 1 bit to represent a pixel, right? We have either 0 or we have 1. 0 is the background and 1 is the foreground. And that's all you have, and that's all you need when you're dealing with 2 colors. But if you're trying to represent more than 2 colors, you need more bits, okay? So just to have a refresher on binary, in order to represent another number past 1, you have to use the second bit. So let's say we have 0 in binary. I'm going to go ahead and use all 8 of them, I guess. Well, let's just use 0, 0 equals 0 in decimal. Okay. So if we're going to count in binary, we're going to go like this. Okay. So we're going to see 1, 0 equals 2 and 1, 1 equals 3. This is how we can get 4 colors. The issue is that we need to use 2 bits for each pixel. And so the idea is if we use 2 bits and they're both 0, that means it's going to be the background color. If we use 0, 1, it's going to be the first color. 1, 0 will be the second color, and 1, 1 will be the third color. And so you might have a good idea of why you have multiple colors in Antic Mode 4 and 5 is because in some cases, like when we have 0, 1, that equals the first color here, but 1, 0 equals the second color. So this pixel will be a different color than this pixel, which will also be a different color than this pixel. So let's start off again with just zeros, okay? Just so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and remove these, and we're going to copy and paste, getting back to where we were. So we have 8 bytes, the same as we did. And if we run this again, it's just going to be space, right? Now, the deal is let's say we wanted to make the slash in Antic Mode 5 and make it look good. Well, the deal is we're going to pick a color. Let's say we're going to just pick 1 color throughout. Well, that would mean that you're going to need to break these up into 4 pixels instead of 8 pixels. Since we're using 2 bits per pixel, we now have only 4 bits, or our characters are only 4 pixels wide. And so that's why it looks funky when you're looking at a normal character In Antic mode 4 or 5, it's all in weird colors, but you can kind of see what they're trying to do. And that's because basically the resolution of the character has been shrunk on the X direction. So certain characters will look just fine. Like an H will look fine because it's just basically taking stuff out of the middle and making it really skinny H. H is a character that you can do well with 4 pixels. Characters like M or N are really hard to do because if you have, say, an M or an N, N's easy enough, but like M, you need a lot more lines in there to be able to actually represent that letter. Next time you're running a game and you actually look at the character set they're using, there are some tricks that they use to be able to make a character look okay. It's not easy to make a character look good, but for these purposes, we don't care because we're not actually going to be representing any letters with this, or if we are, we're not going to be worrying about it right now. We're worrying about making art with it. So, so the great thing is we can say something like, let's say if we wanted to do that slash that I was talking about. So let's say we wanted to do all zeros and we wanted to use color 1 for this slash. Well, we've got this corner, the upper right-hand corner, and then let's do like the lower left-hand corner. And then now we have 6 bytes worth of middle stuff. And it gets rather challenging. How about that? I'm going to make an attempt here, and I'm going to go with these here, do 2 lines of each, and see how that looks. So notice how we have 0, 1 here, and then for 2 lines, 0, 1 for 2 lines, 0, 1 for 2 lines, and 0, 1 for 2 lines here. And it's going down the diagonal. This might look okay. Let's take a look. Okay. So in the other mode, in mode 2, it looks kind of funky because it's spaced out. But in mode 5, it actually looks exactly the way we want it to. So here is 1 character width here. This orange slash going from bottom left to upper right. So this is actually a character that works okay. Now, if we wanted to do the X like we did before, I can try to do the same thing. But as you see, as you're going to see here, it's going to start looking really hard to figure out what this character is going to be. Let's do this here. And then 0, 1, 0, 1. And oops, I messed that up. It's supposed to be 0, 1, and then I thought that looked funky. Oops. All right, let's do that. So now we have our 0, 1s going here, but we have like 4 of them in a row here. So that's gonna start looking a little weird. See, it's there. It is what we are wanting to do, but it's looking less like an X and more of a checkerboard, really. And that's okay. But since we're not worrying about trying to actually display characters, we don't care. So let's start playing around with colors. So let's, instead of trying to do an X, let's do something a little bit more graphical. Let's try to make a ball, for example. And we know that displaying characters can be challenging because we have now only 4 pixel wide characters. But we're wanting to have 8x8 graphics. So, so this is a little bit hard because we're only doing, we're trying to do this with 4 pixels. So what we can do is we can actually use 2 characters. Basically, you can put those 2 characters together to make a 8x8 graphic. And so let's do that now. And using mode 5, so let's lay this out. I'm going to go back to using the blanks like I started with. It just makes it a little easier. I can't type. Okay. And okay. So, but we're going to use 2 characters for this. And we're going to put them side by side. Okay. Now, the way we have to represent them isn't going to be side by side, so you have to kind of visualize this is going to be the left half, and this is going to be the right half. Okay. And so let's make something like a ball. All right. So what we can do here is let's use color 1 to start. And I'm just going to keep it simple and make it go, further out here. Let's see. It can be a little confusing doing it with the with zeros and ones, and this is temporary. Okay, we'll eventually start using art programs and stuff like that, so we're not going to have to be in this mode for too long. But let's say we had something like that, okay, to where it's just half of a ball here, and we can actually run that and see what it looks like. Okay, that's actually pretty decent. It's got half of a ball, and now what we're going to want to do is do the other half of the ball. So I'm going to do this in kind of mirror image of it, and do 0, 1, 0, 1, and do the same thing that I did before. Okay. Now, if we run this, we're not going to see any difference. And the reason why is because we're not using this other character. So there's two things we need to do here. One, we need to load this other character into memory, into our character set memory. And two, we need to actually use this character. So there's two things we need to do there. So the first thing we need to do is we need to say we're going to use 16 instead of 8, because we're going to load in our second character. So that's no problem there. But now, because our screen is full of blanks, we're going to need to make it a little bit more interesting. And that's where we went to when we had when we printed out hello Atari, we can do something similar here. And so let's create something called the scene. Okay. And we're going to just set it up so that it's just going to be a string, and we're going to just use space and exclamation point. Okay. I'll explain why we're using the exclamation point in a moment, but the idea here is that we're going to be able to make our scene using strings if we want. We don't have to use strings. We could use, normal bytes, whatever we want, but this, for right now, this will work. And so what we're going to want to do is we're going to do the same thing that we did before when we were displaying the Hello Atari. So we're going to do the same loop that we did before. And we could reuse X, but for now, we'll just use this. Let me find my code here. So we're going to, let's go ahead and do this way. So we're going to load in, this is going to be the similar thing that we did before. I'm going to just call it loop 2 for lack of a better label. And we're going to say load in the scene, at Y. And this should look very similar to what we did before. Screen Y, INY, B&E, loop 2. Now we can do something that we're now using the macros. We can actually just use MVA, scene, Y, screen, Y, and we can remove that. Saving a line, very important. Okay, so theoretically, what we need to also do is say we need to compare it with 2, so that we only are loading in 2 bytes. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and run it. And so what do we got going on here? So the issue is here that this is actually correct but we only did it to the first line, because this is screen is the pointer to this particular character. So instead of making it mode 2, let's change that back to Antic mode 5. So we can see our handiwork here. And now we have our ball. Okay. Now, it's kind of boring looking because it's only one color. Well, we can use, a bunch of colors, right? That's the whole point. So how do we start doing that? Well, if we look here, we're only using color 1. Well, we want to use more colors here. So let's make the center of the ball one color. And then what we can do is we can actually use a third color right here. So I'm going to change this, these ones right here to be 1, 0. And this one to be 1, 0. And again, I apologize. This is going to get really hard to visualize soon here, but kind of bear with me. So right here, just to kind of look at it, we've got 0, 1 here, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. So it's going to do that orange color around the outside. And then right here, it's going to do the second color number 2, anywhere you see a 1, 0. Okay. And then it's going to do the color 3 anywhere you see a 1, 1. So let's do the same thing to the other half. So I'm going to make this one 1, 0. This one 1, 0. And this one 1, 0. And then this one we're going to make 1, 1. And hopefully I did that right, to where we're going to have 3 colors, actually 4 colors, because we're going to have the background and 3 foreground colors in this. So hopefully this looks right. Cool. Now we have our colors in a ball. So I mean, the reason why this is all, still here is because we're representing we changed the space color is the problem. Obviously, we could bump this up by 1 character in order to not use space. That might be the ideal thing, but we're not really worried about that right now. The point is here that we have a ball here with 2 characters in Antic Mode 5. So next time we'll look at changing the colors. We'll look at doing more interesting things with this. So hopefully you're able to see that we're building up to something really cool here, to be able to display 4 colors and eventually a 5th color. I'll get into that next time, on the screen for each one of these characters. So this is going to be very powerful, and I'm really looking forward to showing you some really cool stuff with this. Hopefully you had some fun doing some pixel art. Definitely play around with it. I really encourage you to go through and start messing with this, because this is going to be the building block of what we're going to be building our entire scene, our backgrounds out of. So this is going to be very powerful, and we'll be able to create walls and all kinds of stuff with this. And so that's where it gets really fun, is when you can really start seeing a tile-based game using this method. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button. As always, see you in the next adventure. Take care. We can get up to 4 colors using Antic Mode 5.